Someone who seems to have loomed large in the early part of your career and that you kept in contact with throughout your career is David Lean, who himself was involved in the inception of the British Film Academy. Could you talk a little bit about him and also from there how you became involved within BAFTA?
In 1947, we hadn't got an academy, and it was people like David Lean who said, we're producing some quite good movies these days and we should have our own academy. David Lean was one of the founders, and in fact I think he was the first chairman ever of BAFTA, wasn't he? I don't know how he had the time to do that, because in 1947, when it was founded as the British Film Academy, I think that he went from one picture to another. He was one of those, along with a list of names that I find these days unbelievable. Michael Balkan, Sir Michael Balkan, who has a special position in the history of British cinema, the Ealing comedies, just for one, and many, many other movies, they had the Balkan name on them. He was one of the founder members, and then you had Ronnie Neame, one of the best cameramen, David Lean's cameraman on his first two films, I think, and names like that were the founders of BAFTA originally, and I wanted to see whether I could become a member of the British Film Academy, and that was at the time immediately before it amalgamated with the Guild of Television Producers and Directors, and we became SFTA, the Society of Film and Television Arts. When we subsequently wanted to become the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, the American academies, their lawyers sent us a stern letter saying there is only one film academy, and you may not call your organisation the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. There is only one academy, and that is us, and you are not allowed to use the word academy.
So how was that resolved?
That's a very good question. It was resolved by a meeting of the council of the academy, and we decided the best policy was to ignore the lawyer's letter, and that is the last we heard about the objection, and we are still, I'm very pleased to say, the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, which is what we became, more or less at the same time as we moved from our 2 rooms on the second floor above a garment manufacturer in Great Portland Street, and we moved to 195 Piccadilly, where we still are.
And before you became chair from 1973 to 76, you were part of this board of trustees. Could you talk about how this worked during this major period, and individuals such as Peter Morley and Richard Corsten and of course Richard Attenborough?
That was a defining moment in our industry, the greater British media industry. And 4 or 5 or 6 important people in our industries had decided that we had got to do something about changing the image of our industry, both film and television. We were a kind of cottage industry. We had awards each year, which was the big event. We rented a hotel banqueting suite. They were not very well done, and I remember particularly that it was very difficult to attract the nominees to turn up. we found our prestige was so low that people coming from abroad wouldn't bother. It was really, I think, when Richard Attenborough, when he became chairman, it was he who really set the wheels in motion that we'd got to change things a bit. And then a couple of years later, I did put myself forward for membership of council. And that was the start of my serious involvement with BAFTA. And I subsequently, after only maybe 2 years on council, I found myself appointed film vice chairman. And there was a chairman of council at that time, was a very good BBC producer of scientific films, a chap called Aubrey Singer, and I was his vice chairman. After 2 years, I became the chairman. At that time, it had been decided we'd got to move up as far as premises were concerned, and the original 2 watercolour artists' premises in Piccadilly became available, empty, and a group was set up to see whether we couldn't take over those premises at 195 Piccadilly, and the money could be raised to have a proper academy building. What date was it? 70?
I think it was about 74, 75 it would have been.
And every penny that we had was spent on converting the building, and that was the time I was invited to join that committee and to become a trustee. And my main responsibility was turning the box that had been created with a raked floor to be the theatre, the main theatre, with 200 seats. The royal opening was fantastic. We had Peter Morley was the producer. I was the presenter because I was the chairman. I remember a future chairman, Johnny Goodman, his job was to wheel in his wheelchair as a surprise, a special fellowship of the British Academy of Film and Television Arts going to Charles Chaplin. And he's here. You know, what a moment. The Queen was there, Princess Anne was there, Mountbatten was there. We had a clip of a clapperboard, and you heard as we came on to the clip, the clapper boy, you heard his voice. BAFTA Royal opening, take 1, bang. And the camera tilted up, and the clapper boy was Prince Charles, who was in Manchester.
What does BAFTA represent for you?
BAFTA, as it is today, to the members, the industry, the world, it has reached its current stature in relatively recently. The status that BAFTA has and the involvements that BAFTA has and what it does for the younger people, those who are not even in the industry yet, and for the young people in the industry, and also its ethnic responsibilities. They were not apparent earlier on. That has come relatively recently, and thank goodness it has. The worldwide prestige of BAFTA, the importance of a BAFTA award, is so much higher now than it used to be. And that's due to how BAFTA has developed and how it's been developed by the people who've been running BAFTA for the last 15 years, and is number 2 only to America.
Sydney Samuelson, thank you very much indeed.
It's been a pleasure.
I really felt this need to create myself, you know, to be not to be in charge, but to have my stamp of programming for children. But then I met Rosemary Shepherd at Channel 4. She said, yeah, you know, come with your ideas.
I'd been filming in Australia, and I flew back and literally landed that day at Heathrow and went to the award ceremony in the evening. So I had no idea what country I was in, what category I was up for.